who's my first speaker?
Me.
Okay, and who is me?
I'm Kennedy Shealy.
All right, let me see your name tag. My friend. Okay, let's speaker 2 is?
Allison Simon.
Can we just confirm that I go for 6 minutes, correct? And
Yes.
then good question, me for 2.
Yes.
All right, and then it's her rebuttal, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, show me first. Hello? Who's speaking first?
I would.
All right. Nicholas.
It's not.
Speaker 2.
I'm Julian Lomax.
I am Dr. Siobhan Shorter. I'm here at Bloomsburg in the Communication Studies Department. So welcome to Bloomsburg. Hope you've enjoyed your time so far. I'm very excited to be the judge for this one. Yay. Looks like you all had a chance to meet each other, which is good. All right. Well, videographer, how are you doing?
We're good.
Okay. Well, whenever you all are ready, so am I.
Hello, my name is Kennedy, and I am arguing that college athletes should be paid by the NCAA. I will be discussing 3 main points, which are student athletes are economically exploited. They are comparable to professional athletes and should be paid as such, and they are academically exploited as well. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was once quoted as saying, "When I played basketball for UCLA, I learned the hard way how the NCAA's refusal to pay college athletes impacted our daily lives. Despite the hours I put in every day, practicing, learning plays, and traveling around the country to play games, and despite the millions of dollars generated for UCLA, both in cash and in recruiting students to attend the university, I was always too broke to do much else but study, practice, and play." What Kareem mentions is a problem that many student athletes face. They are financially exploited and expected to make up the rest with the cost themselves, which is why I believe that they should be paid. Between the leading sports programs, the NCAA generates over $25 million annually. It's obvious that the players that contribute to these million-dollar sports programs earn more than just their athletic scholarships. It's a common misconception that college athletes are overcompensated. Athletic scholarships come with serious restrictions, and unlike regular academic scholarships, student athletes cannot seek other scholarships and can only use their scholarships on tuition and boarding. They cannot earn money beyond their scholarships, and on average, it falls short on coverage by $3,200. And worst of all, if they are injured, they lose their scholarship, leaving them with injury, no education, and broken dreams. My second point is that college athletes are unpaid professionals. The NCAA makes anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million annually from a top player from merchandise and ticket sales alone. The television rights for March Madness bring in $1 billion for the NCAA. Because the NCAA and its member schools are construed to be amateur organizations promoting an educational mission, they do not have to pay taxes on television deals, sponsorships, licensing, or Final Four tickets. This is reminiscent of the multi-billion-dollar National Football League that doesn't have to pay taxes. If that's not professional, I don't know what is. It's an understatement to say that the NCAA has more than enough money to pay its athletes. The notion of amateurism that the NCAA desperately clings to is to prevent them from having to pay its student athletes that generate them so much revenue is deeply flawed. The NCAA claims that college athletes are non-professionals. However, they attend 20 to 30 hours of practice a week, reviews plays, and are expected to attend workouts and training sessions during the off-season so they can perform well during the regular season. It's comparable to how professional athletes are expected to behave. College athletes are treated as professionals and therefore should be paid as professionals. Otherwise, the NCAA is just another capitalist corporation exploiting their workers. My third and final point is that with all this economic exploitation comes academic exploitation. The economic value of scholarships granted to athletes is negated by the academic exploitation. Colleges economically exploit student athletes by using athletics to produce revenue for their school while subscribing to the rules that substantially limit student athletes from receiving compensation. Academic exploitation occurs when colleges focus too heavily on athletics and not enough on academics. The results are instances of academic underperformance. If schools truly cared about the education they were providing for their athletes, they wouldn't need the revenue that comes from sports. Colleges would be able to bring in prestige from academics instead of having to rely on top basketball teams. The notion that student athletes get a free education is false. In fact, they barely get an education at all. Only 41% of men's basketball and 54% of football players graduate with a degree. The graduation rate is even lower for minority students. If the NCAA has to pay its athletes, the system is going to change so that it accommodates the players so they can get a decent education to make the organization look successful. After all, the NCAA is tax exempt because it is for education. Compensated players are going to be more successful. The NCAA should pay its athletes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll go into 2 minutes of cross-examination. Brandon?
Do they cross-examine now? I think we need a point of clarification here. Is there time, or the cross-examination comes like right now?
Yes, right now.
Okay, and then they get minutes, the schedule is looking really English.
It's okay, I'm still trying to figure it out myself.
Okay,
So it looks like we're going to have 2 minutes of cross-examination, then they'll have their first opening speech.
okay.
And then they'll be allowed to.
Someone said it was 5 minutes to prepare before, and it was, did you see the paragraphs? Anyways, okay. All right. She's ready, gentlemen, she's ready. She's cross-examination.
So if you have any questions that you want to ask this team, you're able to. And then when you all go, they'll be able to ask you all questions. And if you don't have any questions, that's fine. We can keep going, no problem.
Move that for the next round. Maybe actually make some questions.
Okay, no problem. And this is new to all of us, probably in this room, including me. So, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have our first speaker come up for the opposition side.
All right, good morning. The worker must work for the glory of his handiwork, not simply for the pay. The thinker must think for truth, not for fame. These were words by W.E.B. Du Bois, a pioneer in the seek of higher education for people of color and minorities within the United States of America. Something that a lot of people don't realize is that even though W. Du Bois is recognized as one of the greatest intellectuals of our history, he was forced to take classes sitting in the hallway at Harvard University. There are probably few during his time who can understand the hard work and the sacrifice that it took for people of color so that they can receive the same education as their majority counterparts. He did this with pride and he did this with dignity, even though all the odds were stacked against him, and every day his dignity as well as his morals were challenged. And yet and still, despite this, he still believed in the hard work that was required so that everyone could gain an education. He believed in utilizing your tools and utilizing what God-given gifts were, what your God-given gifts were, so that you could pursue an education that may not be available otherwise. And to do it for the sake of the education, for the advancement of yourself, and not the glory that may come from the works of your labor. For he must have truly believed that the glories of his labor came from his hard work. We find that too often people of color and minorities within a lot of the lower class societies are overlooked when it comes to higher education. They're told that their education systems are too weak, and that despite whatever high grades and scores they receive, that because of where they come from and because of the education system that they stem from, that they still are not worthy of getting the same education as many of their majority counterparts. What sports does is too often give opportunity for these students to seek this education on a higher level. It gives them the scope so that a lot of these institutions that usually ignore them actually reach out to them and go above and beyond to sell them their university. There's a key aspect to what I'm saying here, is that at the end of the day, the education is the most valuable aspect of what a student athlete gets. Highlight on student athlete. Student always comes first. There was once a quote that was once said by an evil man. Keep their body strong, but their minds weak. It was said by an historical figure, Willie Lynch, who gave a set of rules and a set of regulations on how to keep a slave oppressed and keep them in a slave state of mind. If we overemphasize on the student athlete's athletic ability, we will miss the opportunity to encourage students to reach a higher plane of education, a higher plane of intellectual understanding that must now pay for faculty, students, staff, and now student athletes who were supposed to come to their institution so that they could excel academically, but now are trying to make a career out of something that was simply a privilege.
Sorry, but we are at time. Now we have cross-examination question.
You mentioned Du Bois, who I agree is a great scholar and sociologist. However, your point about giving minorities opportunities to sports is negated by the fact that their graduation rate is only 29% through athletic scholarships because they're academically exploited. They take minorities that are usually from lower income areas with the promise of, oh, you're going to get a free education, you're going to go far in life. But then they force them into majors and minors that are usually, quote unquote, easy majors. So they're not getting their full educational value. That's really all I have to add on that subject.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll have the affirmative rebuttal speech.
So we get to respond in cross-examination, or that's going to be for the rebuttal? Sorry, Siobhan.
Yeah, I was about to ask too. It's actually at a point.
If you want to, we'll make our own.
Well, we could do it in
I was about to say,
former and
because I
just
have
let
a
them
point to
close
prove what
with
she
that
just
in
said.
mind.
Okay. What would you all like to do? Would you like to respond now, or do you want to incorporate it into your speech? What works best?
I'd like to respond right now.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I understand the fact that she mentioned that they're trying to sell these minority players' dreams on, going pro and how they can choose their own major, and they're trying to sell them bogus majors and things like that. But at the end of the day, these are grown men here. Like, these men are 18 and above. They can make their own choices at what majors they can choose. We all know which majors make money nowadays. Like, they can choose what majors they want to go into. It's also up to the players to make time to put in the work, to go ahead and study, go to class, all things that normal students do. So her saying that, they can't do this because they're being forced, it's basically nullified. And also, it has nothing to do with their great, it's up to the players whether they can earn their degree or not. It's not like the coaches are forcing them to slack off and just go to practice. You know what I mean? It's part-time. Student athlete, we have to do both.
Why did you choose to rebuttal, or is it just from?
We're going to learn what the rules are after
Yeah.
this round.
I promise. All of us will learn, right? If you want, go ahead. Go ahead.
Something that also has been quoted by Coach Mack of Shippensburg University is that too often students choose their university, student athletes choose university strictly by what academic accolades that they believe will be provided Because of this stigma, they don't choose university based off of the academic opportunities that would probably fit them better. If students were able to focus more on the educational aspect, and they'd be able to, if student athletes were able to focus more on the educational aspect, then they would be able to thrive more academically and be promised more success in their institutions.
So if student athletes were really students first, then how come if they were granted a athletic scholarship and they were injured, how come they were not able to keep their athletic scholarship? Because if I'm looking at the perspective that I get a 4-year scholarship to play basketball or football or field hockey or whatever, and I go in and I tear my ACL and I'm no longer to play, I lose all my funding. I'm no longer able to afford school. I no longer have a future. That's not student, that's not education. I am now forced to work in a minimum wage job for the rest of my life until I have enough money, until I have backing to go back to school. If education was a priority in athletics, I would not have that problem.
Siobhan, excuse me, a friendly suggestion, point of, I don't know what the Roberts rule is. I think since they've had equal sort of opportunity to respond, then it would be time for them to make their final arguments.
Okay.
And they can address the further commentary that they've added. I think that would be, if you ladies. Yes, okay. Okay, that was a good banter.
Yeah.
I like the volley.
Yeah.
Okay, so now she goes and then she goes first.
Good morning. Me and my partner we are supporting the affirmative side of this topic. We strongly believe that college athletes should be paid employees of the university. I will be pointing out 3 main points that me and my partner have discussed. The first point is that NCAA characterized student athletes as amateurs to eliminate the hassle of losing out on financial gains by not having to share their revenue among student athletes. The NCAA, 90% of their revenue comes from men's basketball championships and from various football playoff games. Compared to professionals, one, not getting paid for performance on or off the field, student athletes do the same, they have almost the same ability as professionals, but yet they're not being paid for their ability that they're providing for the school, as in the professionals getting paid for the ability for that team that they're supporting. 2, no taxes are being taken out from TV deals, sponsorships, licensing, or Final Four ticket sales. So none of those taxes are being given back to the government to then be given back into financial aid for these student athletes. The second point I'll be presenting is NCAA misconstrues the concept that student athletes getting a free education for that one, graduation rates for student athletes is hardly over 50%, indicating that NCAA is not focusing so much on education, because if it was education, they would be graduating more, there would be a higher percentage of graduation rate for the student athletes. 54% of D1A football students graduate, and 41 men's basketball only receive college degrees. My third point that I'll be presenting is student athletes have a strict restrictions when it comes to scholarship earnings compared to academic scholarships. In that, with a sports scholarship, most of the time, student athletes cannot earn money outside of their scholarship. From a quote from Kareem Jabbar, he brings out the points that college athletes on scholarships are not allowed to earn money beyond their scholarship. As in academic scholarships, they're allowed to earn extra money and have a side job if necessary. Another point is NCAA allows scholarship money to be applied only towards tuition, room, and board, and for certain books. As being a student right now, books can get costly. And if you're a student athlete that wants to major in sciences, you have to pay for the books, plus the equipment that comes with it. If you're a student athlete and you have a science degree, that the scholarship may apply to your books, but everything outside of that, lab coats, goggles, any other equipment, that does not cover that. And we,
Sorry, but we are in time.
okay, thank you.
All right. Now we're at our rebuttals.
Okay, so I didn't prepare a fancy speech or anything, but this is coming from the heart. So, I noticed some of the points that she was making about how, or at least the last point she made was about how the major you choose, how the scholarship doesn't provide money to cover like lab coats and books and stuff like that. And with that said, maybe the student athletes should pick their majors accordingly. If they know that they're not going to be able to afford this, knowing their financial situation, maybe they should choose a major that's more accordingly, or maybe they should better plan for, going into this major before they even choose that school. Also, schools offer, they don't just market the sports aspect of the school. They show off all the aspects of the school. They market all aspects of the school, such as giving the players private tutors. They have better sports facilities, actual trainers that take care of the students. Private indoor spas and things of that nature, and also the prestige that comes with the degree that you're getting. Also, these people are technically amateurs, so technically they don't have to get paid if the school doesn't choose to. Another point I would like to make is that how do you track who's being a good athlete? How would you gauge how much to pay each athlete? For example, in the NBA, a top flight player might make a maximum salary. They would get a maximum contract, whereas a role player would get a lesser contract. It would be applied in this case because how would you gauge what player is better than the other? And we've been preaching equality this whole time. Wouldn't it be unfair to pay one player that's better than the other if they're both doing the same thing? Another point that I'd like to make is a lot of these athletes, they get in a lot of trouble, and why would you want to pay somebody whose character issues, where you have to question their character issues? I'm pretty sure that the people in charge of the sporting programs would feel some type of way about paying somebody who's getting arrested or having different bump-ins with the law. Also, I feel as though that getting paid would destroy the whole purpose of going to school, and it would destroy the whole college experience. You're going to school to get an education. You're not going to school to get paid. And those are pretty much my points.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just say thank you to both teams. I really appreciate your preparation, your enthusiasm, especially in round one. It was really exciting to hear all of your arguments and the way that you laid them out, and especially as we're all trying to figure out what the rules are and how to navigate things. I appreciate that. Love the quote from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, speaking as a former player. That was really, really good. Let's see. Really liked how you all laid out your arguments, all that kind of good stuff. Love the fact that you started out with the block folks, knowing your audience. Very, very good. If I could give any feedback to either side, I would say that for the argument on choosing your major accordingly, right? What if I really have a passion to want to do this? Or what if I really want to do that? So you may want to sell that just a little bit more to me. And then also, paying somebody with character issues, I know that's tough. But if you look at like the NFL and the NBA, we're paying those people, and a lot of them have character issues all the time, right? So maybe tracking some course on that. Another thing that I would say is that for our rebuttal, I think you were just getting to the good part when I had to cut you off for time. So that's something to think about too. Okay? Like I said, this is really, really tough, y'all. It's a really, really tough decision to make. But I am going to give this to ESU.
Thank
So
you.
thank you all very much. All right?
You guys did an excellent job.
Yes, I'm very proud of all of you. Very, very proud of all of you. So thank you, thank you, thank you.